Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Planning Commission meeting of the City of Newport News for April the 5th. And at this time, I'm going to ask Commissioner Shook to read our Planning Commissioner creed.
The Newport News Planning Commission is mandated by state law and its members are appointed by City Council. Section 15.2 TAC 2210 of the Code of Virginia states in part that every locality shall create a planning commission in order to promote the orderly development of the locality and its environment. The statutory purpose is to improve the public health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the citizens and to plan the future development of the communities. In serving the statutory purpose, the Commission invites the comments at the public hearing of its interested citizens of matters before it and welcomes your presence. Madam Chairwoman, I move that we adopt the agenda before us.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Commissioner Williams, may I please ask you to do the invocation?
Yes, ma'am. God, we just ask you right now to give us the wisdom to be able to make these decisions on behalf of our citizenry here in Newport News, and we thank you for this opportunity. May we allow your wisdom to lead and direct our steps, and we thank you for this opportunity to serve our community well. And it is in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you. Now, Commissioner Shook, another little responsibility for you. Please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. And now, I hope everyone had a chance to review their meeting minutes. And if there are no changes or corrections or additions, then the meeting minutes will stand as presented. Now we're going to move into the public hearing items for our meeting today. And the first is a conditional use permit. Conditional use -2022-0011 CMH Homes Incorporated. And planner Carolyn Poissant is going to be presenting that. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Application CU 2022-0011 is a request for the operation of an automobile body and paint shop in an M1 light industrial district. The property is located at 13130 Jefferson Avenue and contains 2.3 acres. To the north is a strip retail center on property zoned C2 General Commercial and a self-storage facility zoned M1. A vacant parcel zoned M1 Light Industrials is to the south and to the east, and a vacant parcel zoned C1 Retail Commercial is to the west. The One City, One Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan calls for industrial uses on the property. The property has been zoned M1 light industrial since the citywide comprehensive rezoning became effective August 1st of 1997. A conditional use permit for the display and sale of manufactured and modular homes was approved in 2008. The proposed automobile body and paint shop will occupy a new 14,600 square foot building. The parking requirement of the zoning ordinance specifies a maximum of 1 space per 500 square feet of service shop area, which equates to 30 total spaces. The site plan indicates 15 customer spaces and 43 outdoor storage and employee spaces, for a total of 58 unenclosed spaces. There are also a total of 18 enclosed service bay and 1 detail bay spaces that accommodate vehicles being actively serviced on site. This amount exceeds the maximum allowed for service shops. Thus, the applicant is requesting a special exception to allow for the additional spaces. The zoning ordinance requires a 20-foot wide transitional buffer area along the property's northern and western boundaries where it abuts commercial zoning. The site regulations require a minimum 14-foot wide landscape strip, or 10% of the adjacent right-of-way, to screen the parking areas visible from Jefferson Avenue. However, a 25-foot wide landscape strip is required for the special exception. In addition, the special exception criteria requires that at least 25% of the total site area be landscaped and existing trees be preserved. Submittal and approval of a Class 1 site plan will be required to address stormwater management, lighting, and landscaping and green area, and all other site plan requirements. A new 32-square-foot monument sign is proposed to be installed along the property's Jefferson Avenue frontage. The engineering department has indicated that on-site and off-site drainage currently managed within the existing drainage easement must be properly accommodated, and that a traffic impact statement is required. There were no other objections from reviewing departments. The property was developed in 2009 for the display and sale of manufactured and modular homes, but has been vacant since 2019. The existing office building will be removed to accommodate construction of a new office and automobile repair shop building with site improvements that meet current city requirements. An existing accessory building at the rear of the property will be reutilized for the detail bay. The floor plan of the proposed shop building indicates 1,225 square feet of office area and 12,285 square feet of shop space with 18 repair bays. The new building will be situated on the property, so the bay doors are not facing Jefferson Avenue. The building design will be of masonry elements facing the Jefferson Avenue corridor. Landscaping will be augmented to meet the requirements of the transitional buffer areas, the landscape strips, and to screen all parking and vehicular storage areas. The business plan indicates that there is typically more than 1 vehicle per bay at any time waiting to be serviced. This allows time for estimates to be prepared by employees to accommodate inspections, obtain approvals from insurance adjusters, and to order and receive parts necessary to complete the repairs. The applicant has applied for a special exception to increase the parking allowed on the site from a maximum of 30 to 58 outdoor spaces. Additional parking is not generally encouraged because of increased stormwater runoff. Given that the property proposes an 18-bay structure, the maximum parking requested has been recommended to be limited to no more than 58 spaces. And environmental and stormwater divisions will ensure that the appropriate best management practices for those improvements are installed to comply with applicable state and city requirements. The hours of operation will be 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, with up to 18 employees on site at any given time. The proposed monument sign will be 5 foot 7.5 inches in height and 8 feet in width, with 32 square feet of sign area. This meets the special exception criteria of a ground sign. The existing sight line will be modified and augmented as necessary to meet current city standards and so as to not adversely affect neighboring properties or the public right-of-way. In conclusion, the proposed use of an automobile repair and body shop is consistent with the One City, One Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan land use designation. The landscaping along Jefferson Avenue will screen the use and visually improve the appearance of the property. As conditioned, the proposed automobile repair and body shop use will not negatively impact the surrounding properties. As such, staff recommends that Planning Commission recommend approval of conditional use permit CU 2022-0011 to allow for the operation of an automobile body and paint shop at 13130 Jefferson Avenue with the following conditions. A Class 1 site plan shall be submitted to and reviewed by the Site Plan Review Committee and approved by the Director of Planning. The site plan shall be in general conformance with the plan entitled Conceptual Site Plan 21, prepared by Brett Flory, dated March 27, 2023, and found in Appendix A5. The Class 1 site plan shall conform to this conditional use permit, the city's site regulations, and the zoning ordinance. The applicant shall submit to the Department of Planning building elevations and exterior building materials substantially consistent with the elevation drawings prepared by Brett Flory dated December 21st, 2022, and found in Appendix A7 to be reviewed and approved by the Director of Planning prior to the issuance of a building permit. A landscape plan meeting the requirements of the zoning ordinance and site regulations shall be submitted to and approved by the Director of Planning. This landscape plan shall be in general conformance with the conceptual plan prepared by Freeland and Kaufman Incorporated, dated March 28, 2023, and found in Appendix A8. All landscaping shall be installed in accordance with the approved plan and shall be maintained in a healthy condition in perpetuity. The use approved by this permit shall not commence until the landscaping has been properly installed. Only one freestanding sign shall be permitted on the property. The sign shall be a monument-style sign in accordance with the details in the appendix and shall be no taller than 6 feet measured from the curb to the highest point of the sign area of the structure. The sign shall be no more than 50 square feet. The sign placement, design, and materials shall be reviewed and approved by the Director of Planning prior to the issuance of the sign permit. Site lighting shall be shielded in a manner so as to direct lighting inward to the property and prevent glare onto adjacent properties and the public right-of-way. All vehicles located on the property shall have current state registration and tags, and no storage of inoperable vehicles shall be permitted. There shall be no outdoor storage of hazardous materials, repair equipment, or parts, and the other standard conditions also apply. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and we also have the applicant here.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Real quickly, for clarification, what is considered storage length of time? Have we thought about that?
The unenclosed storage are vehicles parked there waiting to be serviced.
Right, I understand that part, but in terms of not being able to store vehicles there, are we talking vehicles that are left over a week, over 3 weeks?
There's no specific time limit, but they do have to have correct tags.
Correct.
You know, so they can't just be sitting there forever. It would really be the applicant that could respond to the approximate time length that they expect their customers to have
Okay,
vehicles
because I
on
know this
site.
is going to be a collision repair shop, and
Yeah,
there could be some cars waiting there longer than most. I don't want to be cluttered because that happens. So I think we should put a time frame and considering what storage is. No?
So according to their business plan, and the applicant is here and they can address that, but according to their business plan, typical is not more than 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted. Yeah.
This is for me, just for informational purposes. With a business like this, would they also, if they chose to, could sell cars and/or parts as part of their business operation with this?
no, that's a different use.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a totally, I just
Yeah,
pointed
it's
of
not a
info, just
retail.
wanted that for information.
You make a point saying that we're concerned about the amount of parking because of stormwater runoff. When you look at the parking for customer parking and employee parking, you see there's a 24-foot space between the parking spaces. Yet when you get to the vehicle storage on the north side of the building, between the open aisle and the aisle across against the property line, there's a 42-foot section of pavement there. And on the south side of the building, For most of the parking spots, you have an additional 18 feet of pavement there as compared to the first parking spot furthest east. So I think we have a lot of land use that could be more permeable than to just sit there and pave as much as we can to the outside limits. Is there anything we can do about that?
I'd like the applicant to address that question.
You're saying reduce the amount of paved area,
Carolyn, I have
not
a
the size
question.
of the parking places.
Not the number of parking places, but
The drive aisle.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
your typical drive aisles are 24 feet for two-way circulation, and that is something that we can take under advisement and deal with at site plan to reduce that 42 feet down to the 24 that's typical, or even maybe 30 that would allow for a little
yes,
extra
to
room
move.
Right.
to move, but we can take that into consideration.
Carolyn, I have a question. So they have a monument sign and then they have a building sign? This building sign, caliber collision?
There's usually one on the front face, correct? Yeah.
Is this the size it's going to be?
The monument sign in the detail is the detail in your package.
Right, but is the sign on the building the size it's going to be?
I don't think we have that. It'd be in the elevations. if it's even on-
Essentially, building signage is based on the linear feet of frontage, or of the building along that front, so this is just a concept, I don't know if that actually meets, but that's something that our zoning requirement would just stipulate, and sign requirement, excuse me, sign ordinance stipulates that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just real quick, is there any plans for any other vacant property or along this that's in planning right now?
Not that I'm aware of.
I have a question about,
You wish to talk about.
Specifically what vacant property you're speaking of?
The ones to the north and,
Across the street.
across,
No.
yeah.
well, they already did just clear that lot
South.
across the street.
Well, across the street, there will be a use coming before you,
Correct.
a
Yeah, okay.
request.
Yeah.
They just cleared that lot. I got a question. I know you mentioned in the conditions in regards to the lighting. Are they planning on removing the lighting that are presently on the property? Because there's lighting all over the property now.
You want to answer that?
Or are you gonna use the lighting that's there?
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask Mr. Zhang, are you? Okay, I have a card from you, and if you would introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here with you all today. My name is Benny Zhang, and I, along with Tim Trant, are attorneys with Kaufman and Knowles, and our office here in the city is 11815 Fountain Way, Suite 400. I've got a presentation, and I'll be real brief because planning staff has been pretty thorough with it. But Madam Chair, if you'd like for me to directly answer the questions first, I can do that. It's up to you. So,
Well, why don't we let you make your presentation? That may answer some of the questions
Absolutely.
as you go through it.
absolutely. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. First, let me just start by thanking staff for all the help and the discussions and guiding through this application along. Speaking as a former city official in Williamsburg, I have a deep appreciation on both sides with staff working hard behind the scenes before you see the application that you see before you all here today. And just wanted to acknowledge Ms. Flora and Ms. Carolyn for all the hard work on that. Let me start by sharing with you all the project team, just so that you're familiar with us. CMNH Homes Inc. is the owner. We have also MPCC Newport News VA LLC, which is the purchaser and developer. Caliber Collision, which is the focus of much of our conversation here today, is going to be the tenant and operator. As staff mentioned, Freeland and Kaufman Inc. are the engineers and landscape designers. And we've got cross-architect Brett Flory, who's the architect, and Tim Tran and I round out as the legal team. And with us, we have Mr. Bill and Mr. Brett with us here today. They're going to be able to answer some of the more detailed questions you've asked already during the staff presentation. So I'm just going to go through some of these slides. Most of this, if not all of them, are already in your packets. We simply just put this here in the PowerPoint just in case we need to go back and refer to any of these. I promise my presentation is going to be very short. What I wanted to talk a little bit about are actually the project benefits with this application. First, let me start off by saying that staff thoroughly presented. This is consistent with the character of the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District, and as envisioned by the recent and latest comprehensive plan. Two, it secures an important reuse of a vacant site. As staff mentioned, this has been vacant since 2019, and if you drive by there, there's still very nice landscaping and fencing around which the applicant intends to retain as much of that in addition to supplementing any of the landscaping and of course, as required buffer as well. But we simply are providing right now an application that provides a productive use for the otherwise vacant parcel. Number three, high-quality aesthetics. You'll note in the conceptual elevations and the renderings that there's attractive stone and masonry materials being used. It's an attractive look as you drive down and through Jefferson Avenue. And it also helps improve the appearance and the quality of the corridor as well. And just to round out with the last 2 points, the first point there being an excellent source of employment and tax revenue. Just to note, as you see in your staff packets, this site will employ up to 24 folks, and there will be 18 employees on the site at any given time. Also, you've got a use here that will generate tax revenue. It will otherwise provide a more productive use for the property. Finally, I'd like to note that with a conditional use permit, it affords extra scrutiny with the city. And as I mentioned towards the beginning of my remarks, we work hand in hand with staff to resolve a number of issues. One of also which we've discussed here is the 58 proposed parking, which exceeds the existing city limits. But we were able to work with staff on it, and as you noted in Ms. Carolyn's slides, there are a number of conditions that the applicant has to meet. So at every stage of the application, the site plan level, at the review, stormwater runoff questions, issues that you all have posed really good issues and points today will be addressed with staff before the shovel hits the ground and the property is built. We'll also note that with this caliber, no pun intended, of an applicant with caliber. They've been in the business for 25 years. They're well regarded. They have great service and generally very good customer feedback and reviews. So we're pleasant to be able to bring before you a quality applicant in addition to enhancing the corridor with this use. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'll leave the slide at here, but feel free if there's any of the other slides you want me to bring back. Happy to.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Williams.
Yeah, just very quickly, is this a relocation of your current Jefferson? Are you affiliated with the Jefferson Caliber Coalition on 9907? Okay, so this is a different franchise totally, okay?
Correct.
Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
I think if you could elaborate on it, I read a little further. It says in that the existing lighting will be modified. Is that what your plans are, to modify the lighting that's presently there? The reason I'm asking the question because of the businesses that are north of this property. And I think the lighting that was put there are utilized, the ones that are presently there.
One thing I'll note is, Mr. Brett, if you want to come up and speak to that, is it'll have to follow the city ordinances, and I think generally they have to look away from the adjacent properties, have to glare down,
Right.
prevent any obstruction to any of the adjacent property owners, but feel free
Can
to
you
elaborate
introduce
anything I may
yourself,
miss.
sir? I don't have a card for you, so if you would just give your name and address.
Yes. My name is Brett Flory, Cross Architects, 1255 West 15th Street, Suite 125, Plano, Texas. And I'm the architect. To answer your question, we're going to reuse some of those site lighting. We'll reconfigure it to work with our layout. And we'll run a site photometric plan that'll have to meet y'all's lighting ordinance. So that'll be part of our site plan submittal to make sure that we're not spilling any light over, across the property line.
Okay. Thank you.
I can
Okay.
answer any other questions that you have.
If not, we'll go back to Mr. Zhang. I think there are some other people with questions for you.
Yes.
Did you still have the one about the pavement?
I think they said that will be handled during the site plan.
Okay,
More
so you're
with Department
satisfied
of
with-
Planning, yeah,
Okay.
I trust the city.
Okay, so we're all good.
Okay.
Everybody? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you,
Yes.
members of Planning Commission.
Okay, that is the only card that I had,
Okay.
and I assume is there anyone else that missed a card, or? Okay, well, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Okay, then, Madam Chairwoman, I
Well,
move that
Oh, gosh, say
conditional use
matters
permit
before the commission.
2022, tag 0011, be approved with conditions as recommended by staff.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. Okay. Melissa, please call the roll.
Okay. Commissioner Dias. 4. Commissioner Shook.
4.
Commissioner Williams.
4.
Commissioner Taylor.
4.
Commissioner Stodgel.
4.
Commissioner Fox.
4.
Motion unanimous, 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, our next case really kind of follows along with this one, which is a special exception also to be presented today. Oh, wait, this last one will be heard by City Council on May the 9th, 2023. Now, moving on to special exception SE 2023-0001, CMH Homes, Inc. Welcome back, Carolyn Poisson.
Thank you. And to continue, this application is a request to increase the maximum required number of off-street parking spaces permitted for a proposed automobile body and paint shop from 30 to 58 parking spaces. The property, as you know, is located at 13130 Jefferson Avenue and contains 2.3 acres. To the north is the strip retail on property zone C2 General Commercial and a self-storage facility zoned M1. To the south and east are vacant parcels zoned M1 Light Industrial, and to the west is a vacant parcel zoned C1 Retail Commercial. The property has been zoned M1 Light Industrial since the citywide comprehensive rezoning became effective August 1st, 1997. A conditional use permit for the display and sale of manufactured and modular homes was approved in 2008. The applicant proposes to redevelop the property for an automobile body and paint shop with a new 14,600 square foot building. The parking requirement of the zoning ordinance specifies a maximum of one space per 500 square feet of shop area, which equates to a maximum of 30 spaces. The site plan indicates 15 customer spaces, including 2 handicap, and 43 additional employee and vehicular storage spaces for a total of 58 unenclosed spaces. There are also a total of 18 enclosed service bay and 1 detail bay spaces that accommodate vehicles being actively serviced on site. Section 45-3204, subsection E11 states, "The board may grant as a special exception an increase to the maximum required number of off-street parking spaces permitted for a retail store or personal service establishment, furniture or appliance store, wholesale establishment, or service shop, and an enclosed mall building, provided that, A, such increase will not be detrimental to the general character and development of the immediate area. B, satisfactory evidence is provided that additional parking cannot be provided through shared arrangements with adjoining properties. C, any such increase in parking shall also meet the following criteria. Number 1, if the site is wooded, a tree survey shall be conducted. 2, 25% of the total site area shall be landscaped in accordance with a plan developed by the applicant for the special exception and approved by the Director of Planning. The approved landscaping plan shall be installed and maintained by said applicant. Number 3, a 25-foot landscape strip shall be installed and maintained along the site's existing street frontage. The only freestanding sign on an undeveloped site shall be a ground sign. And 5, if the site is already developed, any existing freestanding signs shall be removed and replaced with ground signs. The Departments of Codes Compliance, Public Utilities, Development, Public Works, Engineering, Fire, Parks and Recreation, and Police have no objections to this request. And in terms of the compliance with the requirements, the site, excuse me, I'm getting a little drink. Okay, lots to spit out. The site is located in an industrial area with vacant city-owned parcels located to the east and west. A small retail strip center is located to the north, and a vacant parcel owned by the applicant is located to the south. The business plan indicates that to allow for continuity of work for the 18 service bays, there is a need for more than one unenclosed space per bay. This accommodates vehicles waiting to be serviced. Additional surface parking is not something we encourage because of the increased stormwater runoff, especially with this type of use. Given the location of the property near environmentally sensitive wetlands, increased stormwater runoff may have a negative impact. However, the applicant has stated that the increased parking is necessary for work to be performed in a cohesive manner. It enables vehicles to be waiting while other vehicles are in the service bays, thus allowing an increase of up to 58 unenclosed spaces accommodates the repair operation on the property. There are no opportunities for shared parking on any adjoining properties, and the storage of vehicles in various stages of disrepair off-site would not be appropriate. In terms of the other criteria, the site has a considerable amount of mature vegetation that occurs within the existing buffer areas, and therefore a tree survey is required and will be submitted with the site plan. The proposed conceptual landscape plan shows landscaping on at least 25% of the site. The landscape plan also indicates a 25-foot landscape strip along Jefferson Avenue, meeting that requirement. And the site is already developed, and the applicant proposes to install a 6-foot-tall monument-style ground sign meeting that requirement. And there are no existing signs on the property as indicated. The monument-style sign is proposed. In conclusion, the request for an increase to the maximum required number of off-street parking spaces meets the criteria set forth in the zoning ordinance. Staff recommends that Planning Commission recommend approval of Special Exception SE 2023-0001 to allow an increase to the maximum required number of off-street parking spaces permitted from 30 to 58 spaces for the proposed automobile body and paint shop located at 13130 Jefferson Avenue with the following conditions. The property shall be developed in accordance with all conditions stated in the conditional use permit CU 2022-0011. The property shall have no more than 58 unenclosed parking spaces. A tree survey shall be provided with the site plan submittal, and all mature trees that are in healthy condition within the proposed green areas shall be retained and shall be included in the landscape plan to be reviewed and approved by the Director of Planning. The property shall be landscaped in general conformance with the conceptual landscape plan and as conditioned in conditional use permit CU 2022-0011. All landscaping shall be installed in accordance with the approved plan and maintained in a healthy condition in perpetuity. Only one monument-style ground sign shall be permitted on the site, shall be no taller than 6 feet, and no greater than 50 square feet. The site design and materials shall be reviewed and approved by the Director of Planning prior to the issuance of that sign permit. And other standard conditions shall apply. With that, are there any questions?
Yes. Back to this question in reference to the signage, is 50 square feet. If I recall correctly, that includes all signage, correct?
That's the sign part of the sign, so not like the footing or
I
what have
understand
you.
that, but what I'm getting is the sign that's on the building. Does
No.
that come into play also?
No, that's the that's the condition for the monument-style sign, and then as Ms. Choros indicated, a building sign follows the requirements of the sign ordinance for a building sign, which is related to the frontage of the property, in terms of how many square feet that can be. They're two different things.
The 50 square feet is for the freestanding sign.
Right.
Does not include the building sign.
The facade sign is different.
And in this case, their sign proposed is 32 square feet for the monument sign. So a little smaller than allowed.
Okay.
And the tree survey, Carolyn, is part of the buffer landscaped areas, correct?
Exactly, because there's quite a few mature trees there, especially along the wetland buffer, and initially that wasn't shown to be preserved, so we wanted to make sure that the tree
That's
survey
awesome.
then is done and all that area is preserved.
Good, thank you. Other questions? Yes.
In relation to the environmental concerns for stormwater runoff, I'm a former owner of a 1994 Honda Accord that had a severe oil leak problem. You can pretty much follow me from work to home by following the oil trail. So I guess my question is, in consideration for the chance that they may have vehicles that are sitting there between 2 to 4 weeks, does the applicant plan on putting any mitigating actions in place to kind of reduce that kind of concern?
So the comment from the engineering and stormwater division is that there would be likely special provisions for the filtration of the stormwater, and also they can't have just totally inoperable vehicles just sitting on site. So if they're leaking and whatever, they'd have to be enclosed so that that runoff would go into a sanitary sewer and a grease separator and things like that. I mean, that'll be, those details will come out at site plan, but that's generally how stormwater and engineering.
Right, so
handles
the
that.
engineering department who reviews our conditional use permits stated that an oil water separator will need to be included in their system. So that will be something that will be dealt with at site plan.
Okay, great.
But
Thank
good
you.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. This detention pond, is that size for 58? Is that size for the pavement that they're showing on their site plan?
Those calculations aren't actually all required yet, but engineering did not see any concern with the size in terms of the conceptual plan, but they'll have to submit all their calculations and meet all the requirements for what they're proposing. There was a fair amount of impervious on site initially, but with the additional, they have to make sure and that pond is bigger than what is out there now.
And they're vacating this bioretention area.
I don't believe so. I think that's still part of it.
It's just going to stay.
But double check. Yes? Staying?
Okay. Boy, there's a lot of pavement.
I know, because out there now, there's more grass than pavement. They had a lot of walkways, but there's less pavement. I went and walked it yesterday. Oh, well, peeped over the fence at it yesterday. I'm not going to tell you what I really did, but yes.
Oh,
But it's more, they had walkways. There was some pavement there, but it wasn't as much as this.
Oh, no, not as much as this.
So again, those are site plan details that obviously we will look at. They can reduce the amount of pavement based on the comment earlier. They don't need a 42-foot drive aisle, so that'll reduce some of that. But stormwater runoff is something that is looked at, and when you increase the imperviousness of the site, you have to do retention, quality and quantity on your property as part of the state requirements. So all of those things will be looked at in depth at site plan.
And did you say that the property south of this project is owned by the applicant?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
okay, thank you, Carolyn. I'll open the public hearing, but I don't have any cards. Pardon? Oh, okay. Mr. Zhang, are you ready to come back? Introduce yourself again, please.
Absolutely. No worries. Again, my name is Benny Zhang, attorney with Kaufman Knowles. I'm here along with Tim Trent, who's invisible here today, but very much with us watching, I'm sure. He's the senior member of Kaufman Knowles and Land Use Council to the applicant here. I'm available for any questions, but one comment and question posed to staff that I thought I should supplement as well, if I can, is the idea about the environmental concerns. One thing I wanted to add that in addition to the stormwater and the impervious cover and all those concerns, one thing we wanted to let folks know here as well is that Caliber maintains a high level of service, especially for the safety of its staff to have to deal with the cars, right, with the service itself. They are what it's called automotive service excellence certified. The employees are to handle it, and essentially what that means, rather than just a name on paper, is that staff are trained. They'll perform a safety inspection if there are leaking fluids. Measures are taken, such as removal of the fluids or the placement of indoors to ensure that the fluids do not escape into the environment. So all these captured and other waste fluids are then contracted for disposal with a specially qualified waste handler. I don't have a specific name, and maybe if you wanted to know that specific contractor, Brett and Mr. Bill can provide it, but that is the plan that's provided for by Caliber. And as a secondary measure of protection, the site will be outfitted, and I think staff alluded to this very well, which is with a special water quality feature to ensure that any contaminants are removed before the stormwater leaves on site. So I hope that adds to the question as well.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions for?
I do.
Okay.
As far as shielding is concerned, fencing, is all that's going to be required is what's in this conceptual drawing? I mean, I was looking through the conditions. Did I miss it? Anything as far as from the road to, I maybe have to look.
What you see is what's required.
Okay.
So there's no fence requirement, although they do fence the area where they're, if you see the squares that
Yeah.
go around the site, that's a fence that they will have to install.
Yeah, we don't actually require fences unless you're reducing the transitional buffer area, and they're not doing that. If they choose to put up a fence, they can do that.
Or if they choose to leave the fence that's there, which is just wrought iron.
They can do that.
They can do that.
So that all this will be visible from the street, if that's
They can
all
do
that's
that,
left.
Yeah. But the likelihood is they're probably going to fence in the storage area.
Yeah.
For security.
Does this detention pond, does it have a structure? How is that? Do you know if it has a structure in the middle, or do you know what kind?
If it's okay, Madam Chair, I'd like to invite back Brett, if you'd like to answer that at this time. He might be able to provide you with a more detailed answer.
If you can just state your name again, that's all.
Brett Flory, Cross Architects.
Okay.
And I'm an architect, not a civil engineer. But this will, the stormwater will be reviewed by your engineering department, and the civil engineer will have to submit drainage calculations. And if it needs an outfall structure, then to meet the requirements for how the rate of the water flows out of it, then they'll install one. But I'm not sure yet. It's not even totally designed yet. So this is just a conceptual right now. So the next step is they'll start designing it, and we'll submit for the engineer review.
Okay.
But we do this a lot, and it's all over the country. I've done this over 500 times. So it's Caliber's first-rate operation. They work with all the major insurance companies, the world's largest collision repair company, over 1,600 locations, 25,000 employees. So they have to maintain a first-class operation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our concern is the fact that it's understanding this conceptual drawing, but when our public gets this drawing and start looking at it, and the person just north the view is it's like a strip mall, and there's shops in it, and they're concerned about now all this impervious soil or low surface, where's that water going to go? So the question is whether this drainage conceptual or not.
Yeah,
Be taking consideration that you got property north of that that's concerned about where that water is going to go.
absolutely.
And that's why we keep bringing it up.
Yeah, there's a conservation easement back there that we're draining away from.
Yeah, a lot of
So
weather.
everything goes into our own detention pond.
Okay, I just want to that you understand, we're well aware of your qualifications and how well Caliber does their job, but this is Newport News, and
Absolutely.
we're
I
responsible
understand.
for them.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you finished, Are you still?
Nope, any other questions you may have?
Did So Katie, I know the concern that you've raised, and I know what you're talking about, that has not been determined at this point. And so I can't really definitively answer your question that no, one of those little raised grates
Those
would
large
not be.
structures that, it's right here on Jefferson.
Right.
It's right front on Jefferson, and you put one of those large structures.
Right.
I mean, there's other ways to do, detention than those large structures. I mean, it's a little more costly, but
Right.
it's
And-
it's also, this is a visible site.
Yeah.
And again, given that you've raised that concern, we can certainly take that back to our staff so that as they're going through the site plan process, we can ensure that, they look at alternatives for that.
Okay. Yeah, I just think a large structure on Jefferson is just an eyesore.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. No other questions, no other speakers. I'm going to close the public hearing. Matters before the commissioners.
Madam Chair,
I'll say that first. Yes, sir.
I'd like to recommend approval of special exception, SC TAC 2023 TAC 001 for approval.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
I have a question. How do we make sure that the things that we're concerned about actually happen?
During the site plan.
We trust that the site plan review will be
Okay.
carried out in accordance with the standards imposed by our planning department.
This is being recorded, right?
And
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they will be.
It will be in the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will be watching.
Okay, where were we? Call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Shook,
4.
Commissioner Williams,
4.
Commissioner Taylor,
4.
Commissioner Stodgel,
4.
Commissioner Dias, Commissioner Fox.
4.
Motion unanimous, 6-0.
Okay, now this will be heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals on May 16th, 2023. And thank you, gentlemen. I think we're finished with you, and we're going to move right into our Executive Secretary report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms.
Commissioners.
McAllister.
Good afternoon.
Okay, it's been a while, but if you all can recall the conditional use permits and the rezonings that occurred at Buchanan and
No, I don't remember.
Jefferson Avenue,
I think we need to go back and review those again.
the very long planning commission, you may recall that.
The marathon.
Yes. Well, city council approved them all. They approved the rezoning, they approved the conditional use permits. The special exceptions,
It was a tight vote.
it was a tight vote.
Only one was a tight vote, right?
Yeah, the Wawa.
Yeah.
And they went to the Board of Zoning Appeals. They were also approved the transitional area reduction and also the parking increase. They were both approved. And coming up for April the 19th, you will have two special exceptions. They're on houses being built on lots with less than 50 feet of frontage in the southeast community.
Okay, do we have anything for May?
We do. We do.
Okay.
We have a conditional use permit and a rezoning.
Okay, and once we have our new commissioner, I hope we can set aside an opportunity for a bylaws review.
Well, we can. We're waiting.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying.
But,
We can't do
yeah.
anything until,
Yeah, but we're waiting.
so.
And we're
hopefully-
also, what's coming up also will be a work session on comprehensive plan update,
Okay, good.
so,
Do we have dates for any of that?
no.
Do we have any committee reports?
I was wondering,
Did we have a meeting with the, yeah,
He was
Dates.
asking
Concerned
a
about-
question.
because we're going into the summer season, I just want to make sure what dates are there, if we have any dates, and we can get them out as soon as possible.
Well, we're trying to pick dates where you all don't have a long agenda.
Yes.
Right now, we're looking at maybe mid-May, probably in June. You'll probably be doing more things in the summer. But, we'll work around the commissioner's schedule because we're still waiting for the new planning commissioner to come on board. So,
Okay. I would like to make a comment. Whoever did our boards, this is like a miracle. I've been able to read everything that was up on these boards today.
well, I will definitely let communications know that they're doing an excellent job.
I mean, seriously, usually I'm here and I'm like, oh, I'm just not going to even look at that. But this is just, have you all noticed it?
Very clear.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I think they heard you.
For the visual challenge.
All right, committee reports. Did we have,
Regulations Committee, we had a Regulation Committee meeting, and our last meeting centered around, our discussion was on parking, which interesting enough came before us today, and childcare. We revisited the requirements for permitted childcare,
okay.
and that's about it.
Is there any unfinished business?
Thank you.
Is there any new business? And I am going to adjourn.